I'm here today with the one and only Robert Grant. You are an entrepreneur and you are running a Facebook ad agency named Reach Global Media. You have worked with Warner Brothers, many thought leaders and celebrities like Richard Branson, Gary Vaynerchuk, and NBA star Yao Ming. And Yao Ming is a pretty interesting guy. Like he actually makes Michael Jordan look like a small boy, like a little boy. Look at this. This is crazy, man. I'm wondering what they get to eat in China sometimes. They must have a collection of mutants there. It's amazing. With your agency, you are a Facebook preferred partner, managing millions of dollars in Facebook ad spend. You and your team not only have made over 150 million in the last 10 years through digital products, but you are also experts in compliance. And compliance, that can be a very important and difficult topic for entrepreneurs who want to advertise on Facebook. Robert, thanks for taking the time. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks
for the intro.
Thank you. So my first question is, why is Facebook such a pain in the ass?
I would answer that question, but I might destroy my relationship with them. So yeah, I'm going to probably decline. I'll tell you, I mean...
This is jokingly, of course. Of course, we all love Facebook.
I mean, look, one of the biggest challenges that people have, of course, is having someone to speak to, and particularly in the area of compliance. Compliance is a very gray area. Obviously, it's not just Facebook, Google, YouTube, all of them, they want to cover themselves. So oftentimes first of all, in their published policy, there's a lot of gray areas. And if you don't have someone to talk to in the policy team, oftentimes it can be near impossible to work out what is it that they actually want. So when they say, they don't want sensational language, what does that mean? Is the word wow sensational? Is awesome sensational? Is substantial sensational? And oftentimes it's on a case-by-case basis.
This is really hard. I think the problem is that if you start running Facebook ads, you're not really clear about the policy and what, as you said, with sensational, like you don't know what they label as too sensational or too, let's say, overdone and what's too much for them. Can you give like a rough guideline on how you should approach this? Because you have to keep in mind, on the one hand, your ad has to convert, so you have to speak positive about your product, but you cannot do it too much. And at the same time, I all the time I see really weird Facebook ads, like for crazy stuff with I perceive it as they're breaking a lot of rules. A lot of advertisers on Facebook like break a lot of rules, like rules that are like I've seen pretty edgy investment ads. I've seen almost like pretty much pornographic ads, etc. All the things I thought Facebook wouldn't allow. So for me it's very confusing what actually is allowed. And can you comment on that a little bit?
Yeah. So there's a few ways to get around. I don't want to say get around, but a few ways to deal with these issues. So number one, let's say, take for example, in the health and wellness space, you can get away with a lot more, for want of a better word, if you cite studies. So I don't know what, if you're selling, Nutra products, then they have certain ingredients. So you could say, here, this ingredient does X, and then you make sure that you've got a citation. But I caveat what I say with one thing. You have to be very, very careful and understand that either it's going to be a bot, right? Or it's going to be a human being. you should plan basically for both, and just think that when the person from the policy team is going to be looking at your landing page, for example, they're going to scan your landing page. So for the policy, the stuff that's very important for policy, make sure that it's very evident. It's easy to see. What we found works really, really well with our clients is just telling stories. So if you tell a story in the first person about yourself, to give you an example, I don't know, in the dating space, I was this guy and, I was always used to be super nice, opening the door, straight away telling a girl that I love her and giving her flowers and all this kind of stuff. And I kept getting rejected. This is like, so just one example. Or I was grossly overweight. And then I did, this program or whatever it was. That kind of thing is a lot easier to fly. Don't exaggerate though. Like they're looking for crazy exaggerations. Don't, even if they're true. And, with some of our clients, they are true. They really do have unbelievably good products, and I tell them, just tone it down a little bit. And they're like, but it's true. And I'm like, it doesn't matter if it's true. The person at the other end of the policy, in the policy room, that guy needs to look at your stuff and basically believe that you are not, making outrageous claims, because so many people come to us and they want us to help them to re-enable their accounts. So as a managed agency, that we have that privilege that we can submit the accounts to be re-enabled. I'd say about 90% of the time that we're successful, because of the relationship and status that we have with Facebook. But then obviously, people want to find out what the hell went wrong. And oftentimes that I find it's one of the first questions I ask, and people will say to me, I don't understand what happened. We were running everything. It was fine. We were running these ads for 6 months. And then out of the blue, and it wasn't my fault, I didn't do anything wrong, all my accounts just started getting shut down. What's going on? What's flying? And the first question I always ask is, did you have anybody new around the period that the account got shut down connecting to your account? And oftentimes they'll say to me, yes. I hired a new employee, or I hired a new agency. Somebody new basically connected. And then what they don't realize is that you want to do serious background checks. Same, if not more, as when you hire an employee. What's this guy's history? Because if that person was connected to an account that was banned, or it was flagged and it was in probation or whatever it is, and he was a user or she was a user on the business manager of a previous account, and then they come and connect to your account, they bring that sort of, that bad history with them. And then they cause the account that they've connected to get flagged, and can even be to shut down. And those flags can be on a business manager level, it can be on an account level, and it can be on a page level. And the worst is on the user level. So if it's on the user level and that guy comes on and he's like, hey, I'm going to manage your Facebook post. They say, great, let me connect you to the account. The guy's a user on the account. And then boom, all of a sudden this account, gets terminated, disabled, restrictions, probation, all of those types of things. Like, I'm obviously paranoid to an extreme, because I want to keep my account, my agency account. So we're extremely careful who we let ever onto our business manager, and to make sure that all of our client accounts are running within policy.
If I'm a starter, if I'm a beginner and I want to run Facebook ads and I can't yet afford an agency, how would you approach this? What would be the things that you would look for when if you were a beginner, how would you get started with that if you had to do it yourself?
Wow. That's a very tough question. I would say read the policy, learn it off by heart. I'm literally not kidding. Learn it off by heart. And I would say, don't put anything up there that you wouldn't send to your mum to buy. You know what I mean? It's just as simple as that. And even if you know that your text is believable and you're writing the copy and stuff like that, that it's believable, imagine that was somebody else's. And then if it was someone else's, is this something you would, assuming that you love your mum, is it something you would show to your mum?
What are some other, let's say, unwritten rules, or maybe they're written somewhere, that one should follow in order to not get banned?
One of the biggies is comments and user experience. So there's one thing, even though that we have the ability to appeal accounts, one of the things that we can never overturn, and Facebook will just like flat out not be willing to budge on this, is user experience. They care about it massively. So, you know, a lot of people don't think, they don't think in terms of their targeting. And the example I'm about to give is not anything to do with like prejudices. It's to do with like, who are you talking to, and is that ad going to be relevant to them? So for example, you know, if you're selling, I don't know what, you could have a clothing brand or any kind of brand. You know, there's been tons of studies done, like women basically, you know, pretty women sell better than men in most cases. So everybody wants to use a hot looking girl for any reason, you know, whatsoever. And there's a reason people do it in advertising. It's been for years. But just think, if you're using an image of a scantily clad woman in a bikini, I'm just giving an extreme example. You know, if you just think about how is an older Christian audience, especially women, right? How are they going to react to that? How is an older Muslim audience that's maybe if they're very religious, how are they going to react to that? And a lot of people don't think about that. So you just want to exclude those people. Just think like, who is this ad going to upset? And you want to create exclusion audiences. Okay, so you can't go on Facebook and exclude people by religion and stuff like that. But what you can do is by interest. So, you know, I remember there was one of my clients, and they came to us a few years back. He was getting into all kinds of issues, and their message was very heavily leaning towards numerology, law of attraction, you know, all of that type of area. And there was a lot of people that hated that stuff, that were, you know, they were religious. You could see clearly, like first thing I do is I look at the comments. And people just don't pay attention to that. You need to pay attention to the comments. Mm-hmm. You have to. Number one is user experience. You want to see, are you upsetting the people? But then second, and then obviously that you want to learn. You want to learn from what they're telling you, and then exclude the people that you're upsetting. It's just that simple. So we went and thought, okay, well, let's exclude people that like Mecca, the Pope, the Vatican. And we went through like various, you know, kind of religious leaders, if those people followed those types of people. And this is just like one example. There can be, you know, you just have to think out of the box a little bit. What would those people be into interest wise that I should exclude and not send my ads to them because it's irrelevant? You know, like, I don't know what, if you're trying to sell a product which is like massively appeals to the left side of the political space, well then exclude the people on the right side of the political space that, you know, like this leader, that leader, and another leader. It's honestly not rocket science. It's just most people don't do it. And most people don't even bother looking at those comments. You know, so that piece of it's really big. I'll tell you another one that a lot of people miss, and they didn't even realize this. They didn't even bother to look at it. It's super important. So you have a page score. You know, Facebook will show you your relevancy score on your ads. But most people, they don't like put it in your face what your page score is. So if you're selling a product and that product has a delivery time, basically Facebook will survey your customers and they'll ask them, what was the shipping like? What was the experience? Was it, you know, as promised, as described? If your shipping is like, let's say 2 weeks or 3 weeks, most people don't realize, we live in the world of, like, especially if you're in America, Amazon, right? They spoil you. You order it today, sometimes the same day delivery, or you're expecting it tomorrow, and you're already getting frustrated if you're having to wait 3 days, 2 weeks, you know, you're like, we're so spoiled that we're so often used to just like that 2 weeks is mad. What do you mean 2 weeks? Such a long delivery? So because we've been trained that way, it doesn't matter what you said on the sales page. People often don't read what they saw on the sales page. I've seen this so many times. So you can decide basically when your survey arrives. They give you like a window. So if your product is likely to be delivered, let's say worst case, 3 weeks, put your survey to 4 weeks. Because they've now received the product. Because what we see repeatedly again and again, it doesn't matter if you explicitly, openly, bold, underline, told them this is going to arrive in 3 weeks' time or 2 weeks' time or whatever it is. The survey comes to them and they're just in a state of frustration because of their expectation. You know, everything should be shipped within, 2 days or 3 days. And then oftentimes they'll give you bad feedback and that quality score can destroy you. That can get you shut down. Another thing which a lot of people overlook. So if you're not working with an agency, a partner agency, I advise you to do this. If you see that you have got ads that have been rejected by the system, the AI, manually, there's a button that you can press to manually ask for it to be manually reviewed after it's been rejected. I advise you to do that very strongly on all of your ads if you know they were compliant. Because, if you were just selling, I'll give you one example. There was a guy that he had a picture of a guy sitting on a park bench. So one of the things that Facebook say is you're not allowed to have zoomed in images. They don't want that. So this image happened to get flagged. And, this particular client reached out to us and they said, hey, we don't understand. We're getting our stuff rejected. And we were able to get the feedback from the policy team. So that was actually, that was a false flag and it happens a lot. And we appealed it. But the average regular user or advertiser, you have the ability to actually, click a button and manually get a review if you know for sure. And in this case, if you had a case like this, that for sure this is not zoomed in body parts. This is just a guy sitting on a park bench. Well, yes, get that thing manually reviewed and overturn the rejected ads. Because if you get too many rejected ads, it's not just whether you spent money on ads that were approved. If you've got too many rejected ads in your account, you could easily end up losing your account. I'll tell you one other one, and most people overlook this. Don't ever do this. I've seen this from the big to the small. Make sure that you've got like 3 backup methods of payment on your account. Because, they won't tell us exactly how many strikes, but it seems to be like, from what I've seen, and again, this is just my experience, it's around 3 strikes. And then you're out. Meaning you start running your ads and you don't have a proper payment method or a payment. It's not even a proper payment method. Sometimes Amex sees that, because Facebook starts the billing at a very, very low threshold. So you can start running your ads and let's say that you're at a $500 threshold and like 8 times or 10 or 12 times in the day, they bill your Amex card. Well, guess what? That looks like outright fraud. What the hell's going on? Why is Facebook pinging your card and billing them, so many times in a day? So, anytime that you can, you want to pick up the phone if it's Amex, you want to let them know I'm running Facebook ads, but then also have another 1-2 backups on the account. And also make sure that you appeal, contact them and tell them, listen, this is a flag on your side, not mine. I've called the bank. I called Amex. It's not their side. It's your side. There's a bug. Because oftentimes there can be bugs. Because you don't want to just leave that. Obviously that you want the payment to come off. That's what they want to see. So have the backup payment methods, but also appeal and keep an eye on the billing section because you can see when the rejected payments happen. And if you get an email that comes in and it says, hey, your payment was rejected, and then afterwards it says that it went through, and you realize, hey, this doesn't make any sense, that shouldn't have been rejected, it's a false flag, pick up the phone, to start with, call whoever it is, Amex, the bank, whoever, find out if it was on their end, clear it on their end if it was on their end, And then if it wasn't on their end, get in touch with Facebook and tell them this was a problem on your end. Please, can you just make sure that that is tagged on my account? And can you resolve this? Make sure that you do that, because this on, like I said, there's two things, user experience and billing. Those are the two things that, like, if you mess around with that, there's usually no coming back from it.